Welcome back everyone. This is a very exciting before and after video we have for you. So this project that we did in downtown Denver was pretty cramped, as you can see from the footage I'm playing on the screen right now. So I would say that this was a 6-foot ceiling in the basement, unfinished, and then they had 2 crawl spaces in the back. This is what I'm showing right now. So the guys have already started digging that floor out. This hole right here is going to be the final depth, so that's what I'm showing you there. And then you can see this unfinished basement with all the framework going on right here. You can see just how cramped this basement is. It's hard to move around, all that good stuff. But you know us, we like to get dirty, so we're going to get this bad boy cleaned up. Well, here's another angle of that. You can see that there's the 2 crawl spaces right there where those cutouts are. I'm going to show you this one. So this one had 0 access whatsoever. So this one hasn't seen daylight for probably 30-40 years. So we cut it into there, starting to dig it out. You can see all the framework I was talking about. And taking a step back, this is the overall idea of the basement. So you can see just how much is going on here. Super packed, super busy. With that said, we're going to hop into the time lapse and we're going to show you guys exactly what happened. I'm going to be hopping in and out here, giving you some commentary on our process, why we do what we do, certain key aspects to take away from this. And be sure when you're watching this to, if you want to watch something more in detail, be sure to change the playback speed slower. And if you just want to get this over with and just see from start to finish, be sure to turn that up to 2x speed so you can really hustle through this. But with that said, let's begin. So as I was talking about before, those 2 cutouts, those were previously crawl spaces that the guys are clearing out right now. You can see that. So we recommend that our guys wear masks during most of these jobs because it can get pretty dusty like you've seen back there, especially with some loose dirt with no moisture on it. Kicks up all that particulate and stuff, so we really highly recommend wearing some sort of mask or something just so you don't get that in your lungs. And moving back over here, I was able to place a camera back there, and you can see this is that crawl space. So lots of dirt that needs to be excavated, but luckily it wasn't too bad. Probably square footage rise, maybe 300-400 square foot on this whole thing, maybe even less than that. It's hard to eyeball it, but you can see that. So that was probably not even a week's worth of work, probably 3 days for them to get all that cleared out. Making our way back out here, they're just starting to dig, put our posts up. So what they're doing here is they're putting up the temporary pillars to support the overall structure over their head. So that's what they're doing here, going all the way to the final depth of the floor with those holes and then putting those posts in. And you can see, unfortunately, I had my camera where they're gonna put a post, of course, and they didn't tell me. So unfortunately the view's kind of blocked here, but I'm gonna narrate what's going on. They're just doing that back there where they're all huddled up over. And then pretty soon here, they're gonna make their way to that other crawl space and they're really gonna start to dig that out as well. Get that all cleared out and ready to move forward. So here they go, you can see them, they're starting to demolish that wall some more. Sucks that that pillar's right in the way, but it's a job site. Shit gets fucked up, you should know this. So you can see there, that's what they're doing in that right corner right there. They're digging all that back, and hopefully we switch angles here soon. I did manage to get another angle of this from a little bit further back. But yeah, there they go. And as you can see, we use wheelbarrows on these small super cramped digouts just because you're able to move a lot of dirt really well with those, especially if you make some paths to navigate to the access point. So you can see there too, they put up some more pillars back there to hold up the weight of the building. These are some other contractors coming in, some plumbers and electricians. So these aren't our guys, but they're coming in to check all the wiring, stuff like that. Which is a pain on these super cramped jobs just because everyone's getting in each other's way and it can be super frustrating at times, especially when you gotta move a shit ton of material out and there's just people in your way, but not much you can do in this scenario except try to get this as open as possible. That way everyone has some room to do their job. And you can just see here just the amounts of wheelbarrows that we bring out of dirt. Overall, so far, probably you've seen 100 wheelbarrows get filled up, and they get filled up fast, especially in this time lapse. You can just see that the guys are hustling to get these filled and moved out of there. All right, here's that other angle I was talking to you about. So you can see here just all that previous framework that was unfinished in this basement we're gonna have to get rid of. So you can see them, they just took out that whole wall right there, making sure that we put pillars up in as we go just to keep the structure up. And then that's going to be that final floor height that they're digging out right there. So on that right side where that level is, that's going to be the final floor height, which is roughly 9 or 8 feet, I want to say. So a nice spacious basement. You can see they're starting to do that as well on the left side. It's really just trying to get things cleared up, make some space for yourself so you can really get some room to move around and just work proficiently. Now this was a really fun part of this job. They ended up taking out the staircase just to really add in some extra room there. And I haven't had this done yet as of yet when I record these. So it was kind of cool. So we had to put a ladder up from the shaft to get down just because it was such a steep drop. And you'll see that here soon, they'll tear that staircase out. But that was a really cool little thing that we did for this one. So once we removed that, let me tell you, the space in here almost quadrupled, it felt like, because you can see from one end to the other end with nothing in your way. But you can see the guys, they're working in that back crawl space area again, just getting it all ready. Because even now you can see just how cramped it is. So we did put up a lot of pillars on this one just to keep this building very stable, since we were digging out such a large space under this home. So even though it's a lot more open, it was still pretty cramped with all those pillars we put up. And that's what I was talking about, that staircase, they just took it out. So it was really fun to get up and out of this job. I'll probably have to put up a video here just to show you what that was like, because I did take a video, that was pretty cool. But you can see that. One day it's there, next day it's gone. We work fast, what can I say? All right, you can see now it's just same thing as usual. Get all this material out, get it nice and open. And then once you get to this stage where it's open, it makes life so much easier, because like I said before, everyone can stay in their own little realm, do their own job without getting in each other's way. And you have storage, which is nice. So we have a bunch of wood in the back corner you can see there. We can put tools and stuff in other corners, and now it's a lot easier to move around and get stuff done proficiently. And these conveyors are super nice as well in terms of just like being able to pump dirt out. Super vital to our operation. And now the fun part. So you can see here the guys are working on this wall right here. Kind of sucks that they started at this side where my camera was, but it does give you up close. So they're digging the footer holes right now, and you can see that they're spacing them out. So that's just for structural integrity, just so that the building has something to rest on versus just digging them all out in a straight line and having the building collapse. So they're doing it every other one. So there's going to be where the footers are, since we brought down the floor 2 feet, whatever it was. We have to re-pour a footer for the house to rest on so it doesn't sink or collapse in on itself. So that's what they're doing there, just some footer holes. And then here we go. You can see barely for a second he had some rebar over there that they're cutting. You can see it here. So they're cutting up some rebar, putting it in the hole. And then what they usually do is they're going to pour the footer slab first, and then they'll pour that footer wall. So you'll see that here pretty soon. And they'll add in some vapor barrier as well, just to make sure no moisture enters the basement, keeps it nice and dry. That's especially crucial in wetter climates where that groundwater likes to seep into stuff. So water vapor is very crucial in terms of the longevity of your basement. But you can see here the guys are kind of sporadic, moving all over the place, getting stuff done. There's that ladder I was talking about. So that ladder that just goes up into nothingness, that's where the old staircase was. And so that was pretty fun to walk up and down every time I came and visited the job site. Haven't had that before. Usually we just have a straight in access point. So pretty cool. All right, so you can see here, starting to even move more dirt out of those footer holes, all that stuff. Boom, they poured that footer slab. You can see that, that's what that is. And then once that cures, they're gonna pour the footer wall. So they're gonna put some plywood back there, a form. They're gonna put a form up, and then they're gonna pour that. There's that vapor barrier I was talking about. They're gonna put that in the back. And then there's that plywood. They're cutting that up right in front of the camera. You've seen that. And then you can see they make kind of like a special form rig for that. That way they're able to pour in the concrete. And then it shoots out at an angle, so that way once it cures, they can just knock off that end bit. I went over this more in a previous video, so be sure to check that out if you guys haven't. We have a lot of good stuff on breaking down these basement digouts in other videos, so be sure to check those out. But you can see here we're switching up that angle, and you can see we have like 6 guys down here just doing their thing, moving around, and that's super nice. Once this basement opens up and we're able to do this, just speeds the whole process up immensely. Like for instance here, you have 2 guys on each footer hole getting it done, getting it poured, all that stuff, instead of just one team of 2 guys taking all day to pour all the footers. You can get the footers done in like 2 hours. The plans also did change a lot on this job, so it was a little bit irritating in terms of having like a nice flow or whatever, because there was a lot of back and forth with our builder in terms of like what should be done. They didn't have like a full finished plan when we started building, so a lot of things changed along the way, and that's always unfortunate when you're trying to get stuff done fast and efficiently and, you know, the most cost effectively. So there was a little bit of headache on this job, but we're glad we got it done, got it over with, and the final product looks amazing. I can't wait to show you guys that at the end here. So you can see here they're making more forms and stuff. So these taller ones that they just pushed to the back, those are going to go in the crawl space area, because keep in mind, right, the crawl space, the footers were higher up because when the house was initially poured, right, they just poured it on whatever that height of the ground was there, because they didn't bring down the whole foundation and then pour back in the dirt. They just dug down however many feet it was, 4 feet or whatever. So then we have to go in, and then once we remove all that dirt, we have to re-pour to the height of that foundation, that initial foundation. So the ones in the back are way taller compared to the ones over here, which are almost at ground level to where we're pouring. So depending on the job, and if you have crawl space and basement, your forms will change a little bit, the size of your footers will change a little bit, but for the most part, that's totally common, just because most houses have a little bit of a crawl space area and a basement, just like this one. You can see here on the left, they're doing some more footers on that section. They just dug a hole up for that one. And you see they just brought the concrete hose in, so they're pouring some footers right now in the back and along the back wall there. And so we get asked a lot of times, you may have noticed that the guys are mixing concrete in the wheelbarrows as well as us bringing in the pump, and that's really just it's really just a time thing, right? So if we're waiting on a pump truck, we'll just say, hey yo, go pour everything in the instead of waiting around for the pump truck to get there, just go ahead and pour the quickcrete in the wheelbarrows and just get it over with. And then when the concrete truck does come, just use whatever's left, because the concrete truck is pretty easy. You just throw the hose in there, fill it up, all that jazz. But in terms of saving some time, the wheelbarrow helps a lot when you're just waiting around for those loads to arrive. And you can see just how fast it is right here, right? So these guys are here for a frame. They're like ghosts running around. It's pretty funny to watch, actually. But that's how fast we get the guys working down there, you know, when they're feeling it, when they're feeling the energy and that everything's going well. The guys are moving quick. That's what gets the jobs done quick. That's what we like to see. When they're there for 1 second, one frame. So roughly at this part of the job, this is when it started to slow down for us, just because this is when plans started to change a little bit. So you'll notice that it doesn't start to ease fast. So they're starting to take their time on some things. That's just because they're waiting to hear back on like what to do here, what to do there. So a little bit unfortunate, but like I said, we're just glad to have it over with and have this basement nice and finished. And that's the unfortunate part when you like work with other contractors and stuff. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? You got to wait on other people, things change, all that stuff. You got to go through bureaucracy and all this stuff. So it's just the nature of the job, putting up with the bullshit. But with that said, it's up to you to just like keep your part, do the best work you can, and just make it happen. You can see here they're bringing in more quickcrete, so we're going to get ready to pour some more stuff here pretty soon. And unfortunately, I only had one camera on this job. I'd love to have two, but we just have so many jobs going on right now that I can only spare one camera per job. But here down the line, I really want to start to get more angles for you guys, you know, makes it more interesting. You can cut back and forth, all that great stuff. So here's a good angle of the forms that I was talking about. So here on the right bottom section, you can see that they have some beams holding back that form that they made for that footer wall. And so you can see that little like square hole on the side where that form is made out of wood. That's where they pour that concrete in for the wall. And then once that cures, they'll just rip that off and they'll have a finished footer over there. So you can see this is when stuff really started to slow down. They have a bunch of guys in here checking out the house, looking at everything, changing plans, all that stuff. And then I want to say for like a good 2 months or at least a month on this project, we weren't in there at all just because there's nothing for us to do, just because they had a bunch of work that they were switching around, having other contractors come in and fix all this stuff like wiring, plumbing, all this stuff that needed to be worked on. And you'll see that later in the time-lapse video. I'll point it out. I'll talk about what they're doing, all the electricians and stuff, plumbers. But yeah, you can see just how much room helps in a dig out. You can see the guys got their forms laid against the walls, their ladders, all that stuff, buckets in the middle, and they're still able to move around, get stuff done. And this is where it really sucks when I only have one camera, is when the guys start working in like a back room or something like this. I would love to have a camera back there, but unfortunately, like I said, I only got one camera, so wasn't able to film. And then we got the green light to tear down this wall that connected the two crawl spaces. So that's what's going on there. They just tore down a wall. And so that was being talked about for a while, so that's why that stopped. So, but now that we're able to get it done, guys get in there, get it done fast, and boom, like that. The rooms are connected. And that made a really big difference in terms of the overall like size of this basement. Like when I was walking around the week that they did that, whew, it was a whole new basement, honestly. It's crazy what just breaking down walls will do for a home. Doing the same thing over here. Just tearing down some more of that wall right there, so you can see all that concrete rubber they're gonna have to wheelbarrow out. So like I was talking about before, they just poured that concrete into that footer form right there, and once that's cured, you can see that the concrete kind of cured outside of where the footer will be. Once that's cured and they rip off the form, they'll actually break that off so it's nice and flat. And then there you go, just happened right there. 1 second. So another thing that slowed us down in the back room, I don't know if I ever showed this or if you can see it well in the time lapse, but if you look back there, we have like our wooden posts holding up the floor of this home above us. But if you look back there, if you look on that back wall, there's kind of like some gray ones. Those are actually metal beams, I-beams that they had another set of contractors put in just for extra support. We didn't really agree with it. We thought that the overall soil conditions were fine and didn't need any extra support, especially considering this house has been here for a while, so there's no really setting soil or anything to be worried about. So that was an extra week or two, maybe even 3 that they were doing this, just talking about this, having guys in there doing that really just messed with our flow in the back rooms, because that's where we were supposed to pour our footers and all that stuff, so they were in the way when we were doing that. but what can you do, you know? So once they were out of our way, you can see they're finally back there. They're finally starting to pour footer walls back there and footers. Getting that room finished up. In construction, it's always true, you can never have enough room. Like, they got so much room in this basement now, but as you can see, it's a mess. No matter how much room you give anyone, it's always a mess. Alright, so once you see a bunch of ladders start coming in, that's when the extra contractors and electricians are coming in. That's what they were doing for a while. I think for a couple weeks they were just messing with wires and all that stuff. This whole house is getting remodeled above us, so there's a lot of work just overall being done on this house in terms of like upstairs, around the house, landscaping, all this stuff. So it was a pretty hectic job site, but it's nice. We pretty much, for the most part, had the basement to ourselves, which is great. No one was really messing with our shit. As you know, in the construction field, if anyone messes with your shit, it's a fucking nightmare because you have no idea what they did. So it was super nice. We did have a couple of hiccups with other people, just, you know, the metal beams were a pretty big one, all that stuff getting in our way, but besides that, pretty on our own for it, which is great. See here, caught the guys taking a break over there, right by the entrance. And then that's our main access point, so this is a good view of that. So that's really just the only way we've been able to get material in and out of this place, is just a small little saw cut window. And usually on most of our jobs, that's how it goes. You just have a little entry point that you start from, and you just spew stuff out or in, whatever you need. And then for the most part, you can either come through there, or you find a secondary access point to get people through. So for instance, that ladder is mainly where the people came through, but all the big stuff and material came out that saw cut window. And I'll actually pop up a video on screen here of what that looked like on the outside, just so you can get an idea of like how that looks in terms of getting stuff out and in. Usually we have some bigger equipment out there, like skid steers, to really pick up some heavy loads and move stuff to dumpsters. But for the most part, it's pretty hand dug for the most part. We work hard over here. So back there in the corner, you can see they just added some vapor barrier to a footer, and they're going to cover that up with some forms, which they just did, and then they're going to pour it, and boom, just like that, forms are in. Once you have done enough of these, you understand that it's a really similar process time and time again. It's a pretty cookie cutter formula in terms of just dig it out, pour some footers, all that stuff. Really just simple process once you've like gotten into the hang of it, which is awesome. Don't get us wrong though, like every house is different and has its own challenges, but for the most part, it is a very similar formula through and through. The funnest part about this too is when we do the older houses, there is that possibility of finding something like some old comic books or money or treasure chest, whatever it may be. So we've stumbled across a few of those. I wasn't able to get any on camera just because this was before I started the whole YouTube stuff for Gold's Concrete. So that was a while ago, but we've had our fair share of finding some cool stuff down there. You may have noticed as I was rambling, they tore down another wall. So that was another wall that the builder was giving us a hassle about. They didn't know if they wanted that in or out. So we ended up just doing half of the wall. So that wall is still there, but we just tore down half of it. So that wall took forever. There's a lot of back and forth on that, which was frustrating. But once it's gone, it's gone. So there you go. No more back and forth about that bad boy. So you can see here the guys are just working here and there spontaneously on stuff that needs to be finished. Mostly just footer stuff, the final footers, cleaning out some dirt, all that stuff, leveling everything. As you can see here, they're starting to break the floor here because they're going to bring it down just a little bit more. And you'll really see that in the final weeks of this, just how much the floor. We brought the floor down at least like 6 inches below the footer just to pour some aggregate and gravel down there underneath the vapor barrier and the actual final slab. So you'll get a good glimpse of that here pretty soon. But that's what they're doing now, just bringing it down a little bit more. Getting ready for that. And there you go, you can see they're just digging it down just a little bit. You can see here this guy messing with wires. This is really when the other trades started to come in and just do their thing. So for us, around this point is once things really started to slow down just because they were just doing other stuff and had the final pour on hold. So we really just took our time, had a skeleton crew out here really doing just the final touches before our pour. And it's always crazy to see just how many bags of concrete we use. I always say this in all of our videos, but it never gets old. You'd think we'd be done by now with footers and stuff, but you'd be surprised. Guys keep bringing in concrete and there's more to be done, so this, yep, I remember this. So now they're starting to pour just these little pads around the basement, which is going to be supporting structural for the overall like final pillars and stuff that go up. So this is really when we started to slow down and those other trades, like I said, started to come in. And if you see, those guys just put down those 2 metal beams right there. So that's what I was talking about before that they're putting up. So those things were a pain in the ass because we feel like the house didn't really need them in terms of like the soil conditions were good, all that stuff, but the builder really wanted those in as some additional support. So those guys were doing their thing, getting those put in and stuff. And then we were doing all the extra pouring of concrete. So you can see here, there's a lot going on right now actually. So they're doing all their little slabs and stuff for the structural, like I was saying, like a grade beam and all this stuff, because there's gonna be a structural wall that runs through the basement that's gonna hold up the floor above us, as well as a few pillars and those little square slabs that are gonna hold up as well. Those are gonna support weight on them. But for the most part, this is where we left off for a couple weeks. And then we just had people in here doing their own thing, cleaning it up, all that stuff. Skeleton crew, like I said, maybe 1-2 guys coming in here when needed. And you can see just how long that conveyor is when they laid it across the basement. I think it's massive, but whew, is it crucial. So this is a really good angle to see like that 3-6 inches I was talking about that we brought the floor down on below the footers. So that's where we're gonna pour some aggregate and fill it up. And you can see here, this is what I was talking about, changing plans. So we just poured all those slabs that the final supports are going to stand on, and then this guy comes in and pours another one. So it was kind of like up in the air for a while in terms of the final plan. And then this guy came in and excavated some stuff, broke this up, got rid of it, redid it, all that stuff. But stuff like this is usually out of your control and you just got to go with the flow, so not much we can do there. Then you can see here they had some plumbers come in. Usually we'll do this, but they had some other people come in to do the perimeter drain. That's what they're doing right there, as well as the plumbing that's going to go underneath the slab. That's what they're doing right now, all that black stuff in the back. Can't say all what they're doing right now. Really have no idea. But primarily just electricians. I think they're putting some wood up there too, reinforcing the overall structure. There's a really big emphasis on this project about just reinforcing the fuck out of this thing. You can see they brought in those fat metal beams. They're putting more wood in the roof, all this stuff. So if this house, I don't think it's going anywhere for a couple 100 years at this point. They beefed this up like a bunker. But you can see here, they finally removed a lot of those posts. So that's, I think what they're doing there is adding those supports so they can get rid of all those posts to clear it up even more. But you can see here, starting to work on the final floor. And then once they're done with all this stuff, we'll come back in, do our final bit, pour the floor, wash our hands, and we're done. So you can see here, plumbing is going in, vapor barrier is gonna go in, all this stuff, and then we'll come in, pour our concrete, and we're out. But usually, like I said, we'll usually do this part as well, but they just had someone else do it on this go around. You can see them covering it up, making it look all nice and pretty. And I missed them posting the, I missed them place the vapor barrier, but there's the vapor barrier in. And here's our guys with the pump truck. Look at this, in and out, just final pour, look at that. Super quick, super clean. And it's done. Finalized basement, you can see that right there. Perfect. You can see, just from the beginning to end, how much of a difference this has made in terms of just the overall space in this basement. So before, as you may remember, there's just a bunch of framework, 6-foot tall basement, so you're almost banging your head when you're walking around down there. Not much room to move, but now totally different. And we're gonna cut to some footage showing you that here in a sec. So this was before the slab, so this is what I was talking about. So I was able to get in there when they were placing the vapor barrier, so you can see some of that. Here's a saw cut. We never really show these in the videos because usually when the pour is done we'll do our saw cuts, but we were able to do this one before as another access point that they needed in there. But we finished that. You can see here that aggregate and that gravel I was talking about underneath to bring that back flush with the footers, as well as the vapor barrier in here. So that looks super good. That's what was going on here. And then finally coming back in, here is the finished basement. And you can see now they're coming in with the framework. That grade beam is right under where they're doing that frame. So like I was saying, that's a structural wall right there that they're putting up there. So that's gonna be holding some weight on it. So that's why there's that extra bit of concrete underneath to really support that weight and stop anything from really sinking in. But you can see that super finished, super nice. They got the grooves in there, all that stuff. Prevents some cracking, and a finished basement, just like that. So nothing too extreme, but it's really cool to see just the before and after on this, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to watch our other videos, and we'll see you next time with Gold's Concrete. Thanks for watching. See you next time.